Welcome back to Momentous Building, where we believe your next construction project is going to make a monumental impact on your life, and the experience should be nothing but first class. Today, we're going to be talking about change orders, and in particular, why they are so important to follow the procedures and the steps along the way. There's a reason why we should follow these steps, because not following these steps is going to lead to surprises, frustrations, and heartaches. You don't want any of that. But first, let's start off and review what a change order actually is. A change order is a document in a construction project that actually alters the original contract. Now, this means that these can crop up for a lot of different reasons. They could be design driven, say the design consultant, like an architect, an engineer, or an interior designer, wants to change the scope of the work. They could be driven by the customer, say the customer wants a new wall here, a new outlet there, an upgrade of sort. They could be changing in prices. So nowadays, prices are everywhere. They're fluctuating very commonly. And it's very common actually to see a force majeure clause in the construction documents saying that a material price of more than 5%, 10% will cause a change order event where the contractor can ask for additional funds to cover the difference. Then there's changes in schedules. So if there's a scheduled duration, say things are going to take longer, that has to be documented because the construction schedule should be in the original contract. Then there's changes in scope due to unforeseen conditions. This could be rotted framing. This could be electrical that has to be redone. Just surprises to the job that weren't captured either on the first set of inspection because they were hidden, or that came up because of errors and omissions in design plans. Say the plans are missing something and the contractor has to build something else. The change order is a legally binding document and it has to be treated as such. It should be signed, dated, and the whole thing spelled out. A lot of people are scared of change orders. However, if the original contract is tight and well done with a detailed scope of work, the fears of the word change order and what can come of that shouldn't be an issue. Change orders at the end of the day benefit both parties they benefit both parties because they help the contractor and the homeowner reach a new design if desired. And it also helps the contractor out and helps the homeowner out because if the contractor finds something that is deficient, he can build a better product that will service the client better long term. So we've all heard some nightmares with change orders, I'm sure, at least a negative connotation around it. But what are some of the issues that happen when we don't follow a specific change order procedure? What can happen is that problems at the end of the job relating around billing can get really fuzzy. So the contractor at the end of the job, there might be 10 grand left on the retainer, and all of a sudden the contractor is billing 25. That's because at the beginning of the project, you guys had a conversation that you wanted to upgrade the base molding, you wanted 4 more outlets, pot filler, the contractor found some rot, he wanted to replace it, and all of this details and this information that were probably had through a phone call at some point in time, or maybe even a text message, was never really documented. It was never documented for the cost of the changes and the schedule changes and all these different things. So what does that mean? Sometimes unapproved work happens. Number 2, unapproved work happens by the contractor that the homeowner didn't necessarily approve. He or she did not approve the cost or the actual changes itself. So there's some discrepancy there when wrong work is done. Then sometimes what happens is that there's some fuzziness around, go take care of that, I want that done. But the contractor maybe doesn't write it down or doesn't take care of it right away, or was kind of fuzzy that was this an actual directive to take care of this, or was this something that was just a good idea? So the work doesn't actually get done. That's point number 3. Sometimes change order work doesn't get done. That's through a verbal communication or a text message because details are just unclear on execution. Then what can happen is that the project takes longer than was already in the original schedule because the work was not documented from either party, which can cause some issues. Because if the project's taking a month longer and for the contractor and the homeowners why they can't move into their space for an extra month. And then it becomes contentious because schedule changes were never made part of the change order, extending the construction schedule. And then lastly, all this tension builds up and it ruins the relationship between the homeowner and the contractor. And that's one of the biggest things that a healthy project has, is that they have a great relationship between the homeowner and the contractor where they can have open, fluid conversations and feel like they're working together as a team. So how can we mitigate these four issues of surprise bills at the end, unapproved work happening, approved work not happening, unexpected delays, and a degradation in relationship? How can we fix these? Following a strict change order process. So we mentioned a few reasons why change orders comes up. What we start as number one is the change order event occurs. Design changes, unforeseen conditions, pricing changes, changes in schedule, and errors in missions and designs. One of these areas triggers a change order event. At that time, the contractor and homeowner should have a conversation about how to proceed. Either the contractor alerts the homeowner, or the homeowner alerts the contractor, maybe the architect's involved. It's a design change, and that creates the change order. From there, the contractor should draft this up. It's a written document, typed up, neat. It should be on a form. The contractor should have their own change order form that's a company standard that details the scope of work, any changes in schedule, price changes, if there's a change in price from the original contract. Now, key thing here is that if there's a change in scope of work, there should be a credit for the work that was included in the original contract, and then also the additional cost of the new work. A lot of times, the original cost included in the contract is not given as a credit towards that new change order, which alters the price and is not fair for the homeowner. And then lastly, the fourth item that should be included on the change order itself is the new contract cost total. So if the contract cost was $200,000 that was originally signed day one, and this change order is approved, and there should be a line item in there that says now the new contract is $210,000 due to this $10,000 change order. Lastly, step 3, the homeowner and contractor sign on this document and date it. And this happens before any work is done, no matter what the time scale is. Documents need to be signed, in writing, dated. Finally, number 4, then the work is executed. That's what happens. And a lot of times, the contractor is actually in right to receiving a deposit payment if it is written in his contract before he actually starts to execute the work. So this seems like a really 4-step simple procedure to protect the homeowner from unwanted bills and surprise payments at the end of the job, protect relationships, and keep everything in place. But why don't people follow this? Well, sometimes there's a time delay. So typing up a change order, there might be a few days to get pricing, line up the dots, get clear on the details, and that might take a day, 2 days, 3 days for the contractor to put together, and the homeowner and the architect to put together a solid plan. So that puts back the construction schedule, plus the actual work that needs to get done. But this time that's spent is really, really important to make sure that all the details are captured, the scope of work is very, very clear of what the change is going to be, and that the homeowner approves the new price of this. Because the last thing is we want to rush, and we didn't actually realize that this was going to be $8,000 in work. We thought it was going to be $4,000 in work. And that's the miscommunication that we don't want to have. And then there's the effort in actually typing up the change order. So some contractors might text the price, or they might email price, this is $4,000, or they might just say verbally, because they don't want to have their admin staff or them themselves typing up the change order. However, this is just lazy and should never be acceptable, both from the homeowner or the contractor. This also ties into lack of systems on the contractor. He just doesn't have things set up to actually process change orders and create them. So it's easier for him or her to just send an email or text or give a phone call. which is fine. All three of those are fine, but there needs to be documentation backed up to support it. And then there's always the times where we run into where the homeowner just wants to get the work done. It's okay, yeah, $4,000. I trust you, great guys. I trust you, $4,000. Okay, let's do it. And the contractor's like, oh, okay, let's get it done. And we've been in situations where we send change orders and they're not signed for a few days, but we stick to our guns, and they should always be signed, no matter how inconvenient it is for the homeowner or whatever procedures need to get done. It's very important that we make sure that that's in writing. And then lastly, we've touched on this a few times, verbal approval is not an acceptable way to proceed with work, because conversations are forgotten. Sometimes it's verbal approval in the moment is not always necessarily what you want to do later that day or tomorrow. And that's why we need the change order in place with a document signed in writing to really make sure that that's how we want to execute and move forward. So, to sum all of this up, as you can see, there's a lot of areas in this change order process that, it seems very simple at the time, but when you're in the heat of construction and things are going on, you want to get done, you want to get moved back into your space, the contractor wants to finish the job and do a really good job doing so and provide a lot of quality and value. These sometimes get missed, and especially what I've seen is that they get missed when the contractor and homeowner have a great relationship, because then standards fall off because you guys are friends. However, the quickest way to get each other's enemy list is to not have these change orders signed in writing, and at the end of the day, having a discrepancy about money. That's what you don't want here. So just follow these simple rules. Is that just two things: always in writing, change orders are always in writing, and always signed before executing the work. Those two areas will make a huge impact and should be always followed. We need to hold each other accountable here. It's a working relationship, and we want to make sure that relationship is maintained. So that's what we got here today. The importance of change orders. Patrick Robertson here at Momentous Building. Please give us a like, subscribe, share us with a friend if you got someone going through construction right now. This is very, very important that we make sure we follow. Until next time, I appreciate you guys, and take care.